You're telling me that's Cutter Crawford, Red Sox pitcher. Red Sox dropped their final game against the Royals. Still win the series, but missed the opportunity to sweep the Royals. And really tough night for Cutter Crawford. So 6 earned runs in under 4 innings, less than 4 innings.
Tough few weeks for Cutter.
Yeah, as he said there, maybe the toughest stretch of his career. And I don't know if this is better or worse for him, but he's not alone. I'm sorry to say this. This is not the kind of thing that I want to take a victory lap on. But when we were talking ahead of the trade deadline, what do you need? Yes, you need a right-handed bat. Yes, you need bullpen help. And they certainly got bullpen help. You cannot say anything against the front office for not moving on that. Paxton's been okay. I am at a loss of what you do with the rotation otherwise. Bayo is borderline fine at times now. He wavers between good and borderline fine, and it's a very tightrope that he's walking, and that's kind of okay because of his age and his development. It's not what you want, but it's at least understandable. What's going on with Tanner Houck and Cutter Crawford just looks to be a product of the structure that they've put in with the rotation and the amount of work that they've put on these guys. And I don't know why it's a surprise to anybody that it's falling off a cliff like it is with those guys.
And Mego, forget even about the trade deadline for a minute. We've been talking about this since last November when you had Dylan Cease and Corbin Burns and Yamamoto and Imanaga and all these great pitchers available. The Red Sox got none of them. Now they're at a point where these young guys who are overextending themselves are out of gas. Their team ERA for the season, 4.01. Middle of the pack, not bad. For August, 5.71. And we're a week in, right? That's not that small a sample size. You want to take a guess, Mego, since the All-Star break, how many earned runs Cutter Crawford's allowed?
It's got to be a dozen.
22.
What?
Yep. You want to take a guess how many Tanner Houck's allowed?
I don't want to know.
13.
Okay.
Nick Pivetta, 12. Brian Bayo, 11. And Crawford, by the way, not just 22 earned runs, 13 home runs allowed. These guys are getting blasted day in and day out. And it's something that we talked about, again, not just at the trade deadline. We talked about this in November, December, January. Hey, they have this pitching need. They need a frontline starter. They really need 2 frontline starters. These guys are going to run out of gas. And now, again, to your point, they had a good trade deadline bullpen-wise. They have a really good lineup. They have a top 10 lineup, really top 5 or 6 lineup, if you look at average runs, all that, in the majors. And what's going to prevent them from either making the playoffs or going deep? It's this rotation. Everybody wants to point to the Diamondbacks last year, right? They won 84 games. They made the World Series. They had Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly at the front of that rotation. You don't have that. Nobody should be surprised by this.
So I know people are going to get a little cranky about this because they have been winning series and they just won a really important series against the Royals. Yes. I'm not going to take that away from them. Yes, they're right below. They're almost in that third wild card spot. So I get that, but I just had to show you these rankings where they are since the All-Star break because it's so lopsided. It is so lopsided. When you look at their offense, they're number 1 in OPS, batting average, slugging percentage, RBI, number 1 in all of those categories since the All-Star break. But when you look at their ERA, they have the second highest ERA in the major leagues. Yeah. They have the second highest WHIP in the major leagues. It is that simple to look at those rankings and just see where it has fallen off and how heavily you're leaning on the offense. And if you think that that's a sustainable way to go about the rest of August, where you're seeing teams like the Orioles, yes, my team, you're seeing these other great teams that you're going to be duking it out with trying to get that third wild card spot, let alone you hear Alex Cora talking about aiming higher than that, getting greedy, and having that notion in the clubhouse. Tell me what the solution for the rotation is, because the trade deadline is gone. As Joe Judge once said on a ill-fated T-shirt, no one's coming. It's up to you. So what do? You're resting Pivetta, so you're giving him a day off. You have a day off today. When we talked to Alex Cora yesterday, he said, well, it helps to have a day off here and there. But I don't know that this is an issue that you can reverse that quickly with the amount of work that you've put on those guys. And I get why they did it. Houck looked amazing. He looked incredible through the first third of the season. I understand that you want to keep rolling that guy out there when he's like basically a penciled-in win when you're playing with the margins that you're playing with the roster that you have. So I get it. I just think that this is now you reap what you sow. You didn't do that much in the deadline for the rotation, and here you are.
And I think it goes back to front office, management, ownership didn't believe this was going to be a playoff team in the offseason, so they added none of those pitchers I mentioned earlier. Then you get to the trade deadline, and it's like, okay, do you give Garrett Crochet a big extension just to trade for him? Or do you really extend, maybe trade one of those big three prospects for Jack Flaherty? Or do you get a guy like James Paxton, right? There's just a lot fewer options. And look, they won the series against Seattle. They won the series against Kansas City. Those are good things. They have the tiebreakers. What worries me is they're going to go through a stretch here where they're in Houston tomorrow night, then Texas, then 4 against your Orioles, then Houston again, then Arizona. If they have a week span where the bats go quiet, like all of a sudden maybe they're 4 games out of the wild card. Because, again, it looks good right now, and hopefully it continues. It's just what we saw last night, I'm a little worried we're going to see just more and more because so many, they just haven't done this before. Houck hasn't pitched this much before. Crawford, like this is uncharted territory. Bayo hasn't pitched this much before. It's uncharted territory for so many of these guys, and I think they put in really a minimal insurance policy in Paxton, if you will.